You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This is episode 145.
Welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast, the show business owners listen to when they want to take their business to the next level. Head to businessbrainfood.com.au to catch up on past episodes and access show notes from every interview. Now, here's your host, Ben Futrell.
Well, g'day and welcome back to another episode of Business Brain Food. This, my friend, is the podcast that's 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, it doesn't matter where you're at in this business journey, whether you're just scratching that entrepreneurial itch, maybe you've got a new business that you're kicking off, a new idea, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long, long time and you've got the scars and the wounds to prove it. No matter what, there's always something new you can do to take your business to the next level. And today is absolutely no different. Excited to have Murray Jess coming on the show today, Strategy and Commercial Director of the Zoo Republic, doing some amazing stuff in the marketing space, and we'll get to that very, very shortly. Now, if you're a new listener to the show, welcome. So glad you've joined us for this episode of Business Brain Food. Go back and make sure you catch up on the past episodes. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. So good to have you tuning in every single week. Love bringing you these episodes and these exciting topics of how to grow your business and taking your business to the next level, because that is what it is all about. Now, if you are enjoying the podcast, please head across to the iTunes store, leave an honest review or rating. It helps with the rankings inside the podcast players. It also, gives me some feedback so I can know what it is you love about the show or don't. If you can do that for me, that'd be fantastic. So just jump in the iTunes store, leave an honest review or rating. Take a screenshot of that if you do that, and email it to ben@maxmyprofit.com.au. And when we get that screen capture of that, we will then send you free access to a online training, which is a 1 hour training on the 3 things you must do to improve the user experience of your website, which is one of our most popular trainings we have in our closed community for our members only. I'm going to release that to you by a special way of thank you for leaving that review, because I know it takes a little bit of time. iTunes haven't made it easy and simple for you to do, unfortunately. But if you do make the effort, I will reward you with a little thank you gift saying thank you very much for doing that. All right, so let's get stuck straight into this week's episode. We've got Murray Jess coming on. Now, Murray, as I said, is the Strategy and Commercial Director of the Zoo Republic. Now, if you're not sure who the Zoo Republic is, the Zoo Republic is a business that is based in Pyrmont in Sydney that works with some pretty well-known Australian brands, some international brands as well, things like Carlton United Breweries, Diego, Optus, Toys R Us, Bayer, SBS, Coca Cola, Writing to Cure Cancer, Cannon, and they work with them on their strategy or their marketing. So they're an agency that do all the marketing for them, and they want to. They help them, impact their consumers and customers and potential customers in a way that's different. And Murray's working with that organisation, doing some amazing stuff. He's got about 10 years of experience in building and executing business and marketing strategy within big companies like that, so international blue chip companies throughout Australia, Europe, Asia, and has been a huge asset, I think, to the Zoo Republic, because during his time there, he's held various local and international brand management roles. When you look through his LinkedIn profile, he's had a few roles in that company. But he's been responsible for some pretty huge campaigns that have been really successful. And you're probably wondering, well, I don't know what size business you're in, but a lot of the listeners to this show are in a smaller business. Some are one-man band, some are only doing $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, maybe 5 employees. And you're going, well, what is somebody who's been helping these bigger companies going to be able to help us with? Well, let me tell you that every business has the same challenges when it comes to reaching prospective customers and current customers and converting, prospective customers into leads. Everyone has the same problem with digital marketing in particular. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, because that's an area where Murray really is executing these campaigns really well and understanding consumers and how they behave, where they are, how to find them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Murray gives you some tips also around testing and what a strategy should look like and how to go about testing your strategy, what effort you should put in, and also gives you some tips that cost you absolutely nothing to do, where you can really start to understand who your customers are, what they need, and maybe make some really minor changes that can have a huge impact on your sales figures and your bottom line. So it's a really exciting interview. Really glad that Murray Jess had the time to join us. Coming to us live from a cafe somewhere in Sydney is Murray Jess. Let's get him on to the podcast.
Business Brain Food.
So welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast, Murray.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on the show today.
Hey, my absolute pleasure, mate. And just so the listeners are aware, you are at a cafe somewhere, I believe, having a morning cuppa.
Yeah, just getting the day started. It's good to have a bit of just off the coffee, but I'm still enjoying a warm tea in the winter. Nice.
So if we do hear any background noise or any coffee cups jinking together, we'll know exactly what that is.
Absolutely.
Now, every guest, I start off with the same question, Murray, and you're not going to skip this question, mate, and that is for you to share something quirky about yourself.
Okay.
It's time for something quirky. And now, something quirky.
Something quirky about myself. I actually discovered in my 20s after a skiing accident that I had a horseshoe kidney. I don't have one kidney. I have one kidney, not two.
Ah, okay. I've never heard of that before. So the two are connected together somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Giving it the horseshoe shape. So
that is pretty quirky. 145 episodes, and I've never had that.
Well. You asked for something quirky. There it is.
There you go. And how does that affect anything, or is there anything from a health perspective you have to watch out for? Or
I don't know. I think as I get older, everyone keeps talking about the different things that it could potentially actually trigger, but I've had nothing yet that it triggers. So.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, I guess we could talk about your horseshoe kidney, which is quite quirky, and I think would be an interesting topic. But let's get stuck into marketing because, you're at Zoo Republic and you're doing some amazing work there. And I think for business owners of today, there is a struggle sometimes to get the cut through with their marketing, especially with the digital world. Maybe give us a bit of your background and how you got involved in the marketing space.
I just have a bit of a mixed background. I actually started in a corporate space, so working for Sarah Lee, who owned Moccona Coffee. So I worked with them for 10 years, worked for them 5 years in Australia and 5 years overseas in the Netherlands. Then stepped out of that industry and worked in the tech sector in North America, working in wearable technology, and returned to Australia about 3 years ago to work with the Zoo Republic on their digital product strategy. And more recently, moving into a commercial strategy role with the Zoo Republic based in Sydney.
Yeah, and I guess I mean some of the projects I've seen you working on are pretty amazing stuff, or the Zoo Republic are doing. What have you found in that space, in that marketing space? Has there been a lot of change over the last few years?
I don't think there's any surprise. There's been a lot of change in the marketing realm. Digital has a completely empowered small businesses to really understand their audiences and have direct contact and a direct engagement with their audiences. It is time consuming though, so a lot of businesses actually find it quite laboursome to bring that marketing capability in-house, and then often will look to us or rely on us to actually help them in that space. But I think the channels have become much more fragmented. The requirements to understand consumers more have become more as a key differentiator to communicate in a clear and effective way with consumers. So fragmentation, need to understand your consumers better. And then actually needing to stand for something as well. That's probably, I think, in today's world, when you need to actually cut through, it's actually having a compelling proposition, being clear on that proposition, and communicating in a way which is clear, concise, and consistent as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying, there's a far easier or better opportunity for smaller businesses to be able to get out there and communicate with their customers. But what I hear in our line of work, and we deal with a lot of SMEs, a lot of smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses that are just struggling with the whole lead generation thing because they're a bit bamboozled now by technology. I mean, the old days, I know when I had my business in transport 20-odd years ago, we put an ad in the Yellow Pages and people would just ring us. It doesn't work that way anymore.
No, not at all. That doesn't work that way. I mean, the Yellow Pages doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it exists online, but it's struggling. It's trying to compete against the likes of Google with the search capacity. But you have to be in a lot more places, a lot more frequently to get the cut through that you need. But I think what hasn't changed is that the fact that you still need to stand for something. You need to be clear on what your offer is. So if you're in transport, was it a price offer? Was it a quality offer? A guarantee that it get there at a certain time offer? Whatever that is, that needs to be very well defined within your business and come through not just your communication, but actually how you deliver your product, how your people speak, how you speak as a business owner as well.
Yeah, and I think so. You're talking like when you say what you stand for, are you talking about like a unique selling proposition, or what?
Exactly. Yeah. A unique selling proposition or a value proposition is what we call it. So, what's the one unique thing about your business? So, something you can own, you can stand for, and you can live true to. That is ownable, so people believe they could that your business can provide that offer, and also that it actually it is motivating for consumers. So it must resonate with them and compel them to take action and choose you over a competitor when they're in that mindset to buy or use your service.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of how a business would go about doing that? Because I see businesses doing things like satisfaction guaranteed, or we give the best service in the West or something. That's not really a USP, is it? Because anybody can say that. So have you got any examples of great USPs and then how that may have been developed or formed?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, classic one is probably Uber at the moment, which is doing so well across all different sectors. But I mean, their proposition is more of a service proposition, so it's at your fingertips. It's low cost. It's flexible, and that's from both sides. That's from the staff side. So if you ever jumped into an Uber and you actually worked with, chatted to the guys in the car, they're always talking about how flexible it is, and it works with their either another job that they have, or it works with their lifestyle as well. From the consumer side, you can track when the cars get into your door. You know how much it's going to cost. You have a direct contact with the driver. You can actually see every part of the ride and have visibility to things you never had before. So their value proposition is like a better service delivered at a more effective cost. So while they may not explicitly articulate that and say that in a statement, it comes through in the many attributes of their product and their service. So the example you gave of a money-back guarantee or the best prices ever, that's as much as a statement. But behind that is probably more of, what are you guaranteeing? Are you guaranteeing the quality of your product? Are you guaranteeing the lowest price? And how do you substantiate that through the choice of your products, the quality of your products, the quality of your service, and the different aspects that, come packaged as part of your offering?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, Murray, is it's no good now just to have a statement, but you've also got to be doing, things that are unique as well. And Uber's a great example, but it's something that a lot of small businesses are going to struggle to relate to in their business because Uber's such a big beast now. But if you do break it down, it is pretty simple when you think about it. They're making it easier and cheaper for you to be able to go from A to B. It's something that I know the taxis would have not say. I don't know whether they saw it coming or not. I think they did, but they didn't do anything about it. And I think the reality is for a consumer, because I'm an Uber user, I love using Uber, and for me, I find it's easier. I don't do it because it's cheaper. I do it because it's easier. And I think that's the thing is for me, that's the difference.
It really is the difference, and it's an easy user experience. In the technology itself and the application, but even the journey is really easy as well. If you lose something in the taxi, it's really hard to find. But in an Uber, you can pretty much be guaranteed to get it back. They provide an end-to-end service which doesn't end when the trip ends. It continues on.
And so why do you think it is that so many businesses struggle to be able to find that uniqueness or that USP or what they stand for?
I honestly believe that in sort of small to medium business, it's actually, people don't actually stop, probably take the time to really think it through. They might be sort of caught up in the details of the doing, and maybe not taking the time to step back and say, okay, what is it we actually offer? So I'm sitting in a coffee shop. Is it that they're offering coffee and they're talking about the coffee? That's one part of it, but it's actually the environment, the physical environment, the tables, the comfort, the music, the different aspects. It's also the person behind the counter. The guy says hello, knows your name, knows your coffee as well. So it goes beyond just the essence of the product. It's the things that are packaged up and part of the experience. And if business was to stop and actually say, well, what are we truly offering to our customers, and what do they really want? So really trying to get inside the customer's head. So you may have, continuing with the coffee example, you may have a customer that comes in and just grabs their piccolo shot and slams down and goes. You'll have other customers that come in and want to spend time here and read by themselves. You'll have another set of customers that come in as a group and maybe do a group meeting. There's just 3 different customer segments who all come to you for 3 different reasons. But there's got to be a connector between those, a common thread, which if you can understand what that is and really start to articulate that in a creative way, that's when you start to have something really valuable and can speak to all those segments in a unique and empowering way.
Yeah, and I think I think you've hit the nail on the head there. They don't take the time out to actually work on the business and come up with that strategy because it's not something that's going to happen quickly either, is it? It's not something you typically would spend 10 minutes on. Is there a way or a process that you have developed or advise people to use to come up with this uniqueness?
It does take time, and I think that's probably what people struggle with. They think it should come really easily, should come really fast. But, we could spend days or, potentially even weeks sort of thinking through these things and trying different things and stress testing them to see if they work. Do they resonate? Are they compelling? Do they stand for something different in the market, or are they just wallpaper and will be lost in the market? Our approach is to really take it from a customer perspective. So first of all, segmenting to the market to understand who are the different, audience types, targeting the ones which we think are most lucrative by size or spend, whatever they may be, and then starting to profile those, okay, and understand what are their needs and wants, desires, what pain points do they have with the type of service or product we're offering, what do they gain by using our product or service, and then once you've sort of got that really rich understanding of those segments and the profiles, that's when you sort of look, okay, how does my brand potentially solve the pain points that they have? Do I get them coffee quicker? Do I create a nice environment to meet with them, their team, or to sit by themselves and get their half an hour of me time for the day? And what are the gains? Are there gains that they get from coming to me that I can elevate and amplify and really enrich the experience as well? And from trying to find the way the brand or the service or the product actually solves the different pains and gains of that consumer, that's where you really start to unlock what your proposition is.
Yeah, some great tips there. Now, you mentioned before understanding your customers, and you started to talk a bit there about, things like spend, etc. This information that for a lot of people, they're not sure how to get. So tell us, how do you go about understanding your customer? What can a business do to do that?
Understanding your customer, yeah. There's so many ways. It's actually, what the first point of contact would be. Well, where do we currently speak to our customers? What are the touch points we currently have with our customers? Is it a face-to-face reaction where they're coming in and ordering something over the counter? Are they calling up and making orders? So we have an over the phone, but it's still a personal contact. Is it a web-based interface? So there's it's more of a digital touch point, or if none of those exist and you're starting up a business, is about, getting out into the environment where people may be enjoying a similar service or product and observing the different types of people, the different types of customer segments, and how they use a product or service as well. So I'd start with the existing touch points that the business has, see how we can, observe those, maybe input like a question or an observation point to sort of test different things, or a positioning, a question, or trying different things and seeing what reactions you get. And that could be across the face-to-face, the phone, or the internet. And then if none of that exists, or you want a deeper understanding, I find the way where I get a lot of my information is just going out and observing. So if I was the cafe owner here today, I'd probably get a friend to work the counter, and I might sit in the corner of the cafe for 2 hours every morning for a week and just see who comes in, who goes out, how long they spend, what are they doing here when they're here, and what are they buying while they're here, what are they not buying. And from that, start to really sort of understand from those observations what may be the underlying motivations for those. What's driving those motivations? Is it a pain? Is it a gain? And then from that, maybe see, okay, well, what can I adjust about my product or my service that will help that profile of that customer achieve what they need to achieve during the day.
Yeah. Now, you just mentioned something there, adjusting my product or service. A lot of business owners will be going, I'm not going to change anything. I love what I do. Do you think that that's a stopping point for a lot of people? Is they're not? I mean, just that alone, just saying you're going to sit for 2 hours a day and watch the interaction between your customers and your business. A lot of business owners will be going, well, I don't have the time for that, Murray. There's no way that's going to happen. And then you said, and then you're going to adjust what you do or you offer based on what they want. You're starting to scare a few people, I'd say. What do you think that's a challenge for business owners, is they're not taking the time to really understand their customers?
Yeah, time's always going to be a challenge for any small business. I mean, our business is around 30 people, but we'd still consider it a small to medium-sized business. We do long hours, and we're always having to find time. I guess I would say that the time you put into understanding your customers, it doesn't have to be 2 hours a day. That's probably the extreme. It could be 15 minutes a day, which comes to an hour a week. But pausing, taking time to observe and see what's going on. It's amazing what you'll learn, and it will pay back tenfold in what you do within your business. And change can be in different degrees of magnitude. It can be something simple. It could be I continue to use the coffee example because it's so visual to me right now. But some coffee shops put a little little cookie on top of your cup when you come in and out. So it could be adding something such as simple as that. To your service. It could be changing the style of your cups, or do you change an extreme version of that is completely changing the layout of the store, changing the environment. There's many more things you do. So change doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be incremental, and for big change. So.
Yeah, it was interesting because I mean, you mentioned the little changes that can affect your business. And whilst we're talking about the cafes, I was away about 6 weeks ago in the middle of winter here in Australia, and me and my wife were down south, and I was going each morning to this coffee shop and getting coffee. And the first morning we went there for breakfast, and then the next 2 mornings we didn't. And on the third morning, the lady said, "Oh, we didn't see you for breakfast yesterday. Are you coming back in for breakfast this morning?" And I said, "Well, actually, no." And she said, "Well, what, is there something wrong?" And I said, "Well, your chairs are made out of metal and they're freezing." Now, she hadn't thought about this. They look quite trendy, but it was very uncomfortable to sit there and have breakfast because it was in the middle of winter and she hadn't heated inside her cafe. It was very cold. Yeah. And so I think she was actually surprised to get that feedback. So, I think you're right. Sometimes it is the little things, isn't it?
But that's great insight. That's one way to find out about your customers right there is ask them and have a dialogue with them, when they are in your store, or ask them how they're going, what's coming on, why they are not coming, and that's where you really get the unfiltered things. Like, customers will tell you what they think; they're not shy, and you can't replace that level of insight. So often when you're in your business, you don't see the things that your customers do see, because you've done what you've done and you've always done it, but you don't experience how that service is because you're delivering the service or you're delivering the product.
Yeah.
So to put yourself in the other person's, the customer's shoes, provides great insight to optimize things. So, I mean, there's a couple of things in the example you give. She could have bought some nice cushions, gone down to Target and spent $100 on getting some nice cushions. So then the chairs go from cold and sterile to warm and inviting for the rest of the winter. Right then and there, she might have increased her sales during breakfast period tenfold.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's really simple observations, and definite believer in, say, the small things can make a huge difference.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to get onto a bit about the digital space and actually reaching new customers. So I think a lot of business owners struggle with that. And you talked about understanding consumers, and we're getting to know what our customers do and don't like, and what what motivates them, what they fear losing, and all the wants and gains, etc. From a business point of view, like I said 20 years ago, marketing was a lot simpler. You just you bought an ad in the paper or in the yellow pages, or you did some direct mail, or you went out and you pounded the pavement with your feet and you went and did some door knocking. These days we find businesses are really struggling to put together a plan that they can rely upon, or they feel confident in executing in their business. What do you think are some of the things that business owners aren't doing, or that they could do to be more effective in their digital marketing, or in their current marketing, or marketing of 2017? Let's call it that.
Yeah, sure. I think the real challenge is it is being so fragmented. It is really daunting. It's understanding, where do you put your time to get the biggest bang for your buck, and knowing where to put your time is actually understanding where your consumers are, and how does your product service fit within their life. So is it something they're buying on a regular basis that they have an emotional connection with, or is it something they're buying infrequently and would have no emotional connection with? It's a utility. So in the case of utilities stage, you're only going to sort of look for your product when they need it, and they won't potentially have an ongoing need to engage with your business because it's less frequent, and there's no emotional connection with it. So I think the first thing is then for a business to understand, okay, well, where are my consumers and how would they engage in my product? And that should really determine, where do you play? So do I play in the digital space? So if I'm a utility and an infrequent purchase, so where are people going to look for my product when they need it? Okay, is it search? How do I play in search? Are they going to business websites, brand websites? Are they going straight to a search engine like Google, Bing, whatever it may be, to find that information? Or are they going to aggregation websites like we have insurance aggregators in the market, health insurance aggregators, different things to get their information. So that'll be the first step to understanding where to play. And from that, it's, I think, understanding, okay, well, when do I actually have to play? So not where, but then when. Do I need a sustained level of activity here to build brand awareness, or is it just different peaks of activity to suit with different times of the week or different times of the year when people are buying into my product or service? I guess, in addition to that, I think it's then, how does a business actually equip themselves to do some of this in-house, or do they need to work with partners that are specialists in this space? And where you have digital is quite complex and can be very time consuming. So if it's taking away from your core business and you're delivering your product, and I think that's why businesses really struggle with it, because they see it as a diversion to them delivering their core business and delivering to their customers. So that's a really tricky thing to, I guess, determine for a business. But I guess I'd say in that instance, it's about finding, if you don't have the expertise in-house, it's about then how do you find like a partner that's a suitable match for your business. So if you're a small coffee shop, to continue the example, finding a one or two man band that can help you within your small limited budgets. If you're a bigger business, 10, 20, 30 people, finding a business has the breadth of capability, the breadth of expertise to maybe deliver your communication in the channels and across the platforms that make the most sense for your customer segments.
Yeah, some good tips. And I think you're right. With the digital space, it is overwhelming. I know myself as a small business owner, it's overwhelming sometimes trying to work out where to put your dollar. Because we have a decent marketing budget, but still limited. Everybody's got a limited.
It is, and I think that's it, because I think digital can be really backed up by being fragmented. It is confusing, but what sits behind that? And I think that people forget that behind digital, there's still humans, and humans there's still a whole psychology behind human behavior, behind consumer behavior, which ultimately drives the power of social and digital. And, that's things like reciprocity, like an authority, things like evidence and consistency principles, which are all fundamentals for how you change and influence consumers. But social and digital are just amplify that as well. It doesn't change them, I don't think. And when you talk about, small to medium business, your choice is like, where do you focus? And not trying to do everything. It's picking one thing and one channel, or 2 or 3 channels, and just really doing them well, not trying to be everywhere. So if you're a small and medium business and you're a fashion label, where are people looking at fashion? They're looking on Instagram, maybe Pinterest as 2 platforms. So you choose to focus on Instagram because you're looking at the research, you see the profile of your customer, 50, 60, 70, 80% are on there. And that's where you can get your product in front of them. They can see it, and you can even create links through to potentially a buy site as well. So doubling down on things which you know your target audience is, and that complements your product, gives you a chance to present your product in the best environment and the most appealing fashion to your customers is the most important.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned, knowing where your customers are. I mean, everyone. One of the things that I hear a lot of people in digital say now, especially the people that are running Facebook campaigns for companies, they say everyone's on Facebook. So, and when you look at the stats, I think there's 16 million active users in Australia alone every month. So, given our population, it's probably true that your target market's going to be on there. But how do you know where to start? Like, is there a platform you can go and use to research where your customers are, or how do you know if they're on Instagram or if they're using Pinterest, or where does a business start rather?
I mean, all these businesses like Facebook is in the yes, everyone is on it, but it's incredibly powerful with its targeting tools. Down to geographic location, age group, interests, etc. You can target extremely well on Facebook, and they have all the tools to help you to do that. So, being a behemoth, they encourage businesses and they want businesses using their platform. They have many tools, do-it-yourself tips, videos, training modules, etc. That will help you understand, okay, how to use their tools, how to identify your audience, I guess, initially. Within their platform, where they're spending the time, how long they're spending their time, but then also how do you actually use their tools to target them and get your message in front of them in a relevant and timely fashion as well.
Yeah, I think what you talked about strategy before and thinking about, are they people searching for something? Because I think the people, if they're searching for something, let's say I don't know, let's say my toilet's blocked and I'm looking for a plumber, the likelihood of me searching for that on Facebook is slim, isn't it?
I'd say so. I mean, like, unless you had a whole bunch of friends who were plumbers, and you're like, then you'd be like, who's free today? But you're right. It'd be, you might go straight to. I know you see a lot on Facebook. People just throw a question out to their friends. Anyone know a good tradie in this area?
Yes.
And they're looking for referrals, and that's just throwing out to their network. So the power of referrals is extremely powerful. So. That, I guess, is another thing as a small business. And how do you leverage your the customers, your advocates, to be promoting your business? Because in the online space, where as a consumer, there is so much choice, the thing that's going to differentiate you is another human being telling you that was a great experience.
Yeah, and I think you're right. In fact, I'll retract that statement because people do. I'm just thinking about the community groups. I'm in my local area community group on Facebook, and a lot of people go in there and ask for, a plumber, electrician, or a hairdresser, so it would pay if you're a local business to get into those local groups because that's your target market, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just having a voice there, and it's I think there's some really creative tradies that sort of have a Facebook page for their business. Have a little commentary here and there, and it's just fun and gimmicky. So then when they do, people do have a problem. It's just then, okay, well, it's familiar, it's top of mind, I know where to find them. So, I mean, if we take that example as a trader, I'd say you'd have definitely have a Facebook page because it'd be a cheap, cost-effective way for you to get a presence online. You wouldn't have to pay for a developer for your own a website. And really, would you need a website as a plumber? I don't believe so. I think people aren't going to go to your website and search what sort of stuff you do. They want to call you. They want to have some referrals or some sort of confidence that you're a good quality tradesman and you're reliable and trustworthy, which they're going to get from other things like either talking to you or referrals or quotes from existing customers. And that can all be done through a platform like Facebook. So thinking your channel selection, it's thinking about how people going to, how they're going to contact, where are they, how they're going to contact me, what information do they want when they want to contact me, to engage with me, and how is that best delivered? So rather than investing heaps in a website, because they are expensive to not just set up, to maintain, are there existing tools out there which I can actually leverage, which work better with my customer base, and provide a direct contact channel with them as well. So Facebook, I guess, has the additional power in that people you can create networks within your business as well. So you start to, through likes and friends, etc., you start to grow your audience, and then you can have one-to-one communication with these people, and continue to build your brands and continue to build that engagement. So when it comes to them, the consumer being in that purchase mindset, you are top of mind, and then they will reach out to you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm writing down so many questions here as you're talking. You've got some absolute gold nuggets in there. You mentioned there quotes from other customers. I'm assuming you're talking about reviews that people can leave online.
The word escaped me at the time.
Yeah. So how important is it, do you think, with reviews? Because I sometimes if you go and put in something like one of the major telco companies in Australia or a bank and look for reviews on them, they're all horrible, but obviously they've got a monopoly, so it doesn't affect their business. But how important is it for smaller business to be really smart and switched on about getting good customer reviews online?
Oh, I mean, I can't say enough about those. I just my mother bought a car recently, and it was such a great experience. We left a review on Google for the sales guy there, and he was extremely excited about that. It made a huge difference to him, and him, not just being proud of what he did, but I guess generating awareness for that business. But you mentioned you've been on holidays and been traveling around, and in the area where you were, if you used a search, to see what local cafes were or restaurants or activities were.
We use TripAdvisor all the time.
Yeah, it's built on referrals, isn't it? So I mean. And no doubt, those referrals, the number of them, and then the quality of them, no doubt, I guess, dictated or influenced your choice of where you went and what you did. And I think it's subconscious that it's a very subtle way of influencing decision making within consumers. It feels genuine and generally is genuine because it's another person. It's not the business telling us that that's good. It's someone independent giving a referral to that business.
Yeah, okay. So do you think that, a lot of people are afraid to ask referrals or they don't have a system for it. Do you think that's something that every business should be sitting down and going, okay, well, let's develop a strategy for getting feedback from our customers online?
I think so. If you are a business like that, then it's like, again, I guess talk back to your advocates. How do you build advocates, foster them, and have them, and speaking about you and getting out there, and that, back to the old word of mouth marketing, and that's really what it is. It's it's a digital way of word of mouth, and that's one of the most powerful forms of marketing is word of mouth marketing. So if we can harness that and amplify it through social, then it should definitely be part of a strategy.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's really interesting when you get, if you're buying from a category from a business that you've never bought from before, or you buy it from infrequently, your level of knowledge about that industry or that product category and the providers in that category is so limited and our attention span in today's society is so limited as well that you'll look for anything to grab on for reassurance, trust, before you commit to that. So these are all little sort of powerful nuggets to helping you convince you one way or the other to go with a certain product or provider. So, certain products you may not research till you get in store. Certain products may take 2 weeks or a month to research. So I think understanding how much research your consumer is likely to do for your product, is it out store, is it in store, will also help you understand what role the influencer aspect plays, but also what role your other channels would play as well.
Yeah, Murray, I was looking at some research. I can't remember now. It's probably about a year ago, but I was looking at some research on the most common search terms on YouTube, and they were saying the top search term starts with "how to." So that's for people looking for like a how-to video, and the second search term was a product or service followed by the word "review."
Yeah.
So people are looking for this, aren't they?
Absolutely. There's whole industries built on the how-to sort of phenomenon, and we've worked with a number of clients that are selling products which are solutions to, home cleaning problems. And that's I don't know. Well, my mum doesn't own any cookbooks anymore. She just goes straight into Google and types in what she wants, and there it is, and she'll just jump. That's her go-to thing for all her answers. So. The people are out there, they're actively using it. It's, if it's not on your desktop, it's in your hand 24 hours a day. So there's so much access to this, so much information that it's often the simplest bits of information. Again, back to the small things make a difference that will make a difference to people choosing you over another, over a competitor. And they're really simple things to do. You don't have to do big, massive brand campaigns and have big, massive digital spends. Just leaning on your advocates to be promoters of your business and doing it in a nice and an authentic way. You never want to push anyone to actually do a review and give you a positive review if they don't feel positive about your business. You want it to be genuine and it be heartfelt. So from that customer, and I guess the other side of that is then when a customer doesn't actually leave you a poor review, that's a chance to improve. And it's also a chance for you to address that in an open forum. People see that, okay, this is a business that's actually actively interested in their customers and will make change or will address issues when and if they arise.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that Uber's done well is Uber have, they're treating, like you said, their drivers are getting a benefit, their customers are getting a benefit, and they're giving both those people the opportunity to give feedback. So as a rider, you give feedback about your driver or your experience back to Uber. And as a driver, I believe they leave feedback about their passenger. And that gives Uber the opportunity to manage anything that's substandard and stop it before it becomes a problem. And I think having that feedback loop is a big part of their success.
Absolutely. I mean, if you are an Uber user, you can go and see your Uber rating, and if you get a rating that's incredibly low, then you might find it hard to get a lift. So, just like the drivers, the users are actually rated as well. Yeah.
Now, you talked before about testing. I think I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. A lot of businesses that we talk to, they spend a bit of money on trying to market online. It is difficult because it's so fragmented. They probably don't put enough time into the strategy or thinking about who their consumer is. So they get despondent very quickly because they seem to burn through their cash quickly. Let's say they got $1,000 or $2,000 to try some online marketing, whether it's AdWords or it's Facebook or Instagram, whatever it might be. And then they give up because they don't get the result. They don't get a return on investment. Now, you mentioned testing before. What level of testing should someone be doing, and what should we expect to have to invest to get the results we need?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
I knew it would
be. I guess from the outset is saying, what are you testing? What objective are you trying to achieve? So, are you just trying to generate awareness? Or are you trying to close a sale or get a lead? Like, what is it you're trying to generate? And that from the outset, I guess, by testing, you got to understand what your objective is and what you can measure it against. So if you just put a campaign on Facebook and then said, okay, I didn't get any sales, but you don't even have a web link in there and you don't have an online store to buy anything, then you've got your metrics all wrong. So you need to be able to, I guess, measure, set an objective, measure that for that test to be worthwhile doing in the first place. How you test, that's a tough one, and then how much you put behind it. I think I would start with, what is the channel that I'm in trying to invest in? If we took Instagram as an example, a lot of these things take time to build. So you need to build an audience, and that doesn't happen overnight. And I guess that's, effectively you can't just test having a website on Facebook and do it for a month and then hope it solves all your problems, because it won't. You need to, I guess, have a presence there, build a community, or a following, and then from that, a base of it, an audience, then run tests and see, okay, well, what, now that I have a group, am I going to test a campaign to drive people to my e-commerce website? Am I going to test something which drives people to an event? Am I going to test something which has a coupon which they can go into store and buy something? So there's a lot of different things you may want to test, but I think fundamentally you've got to have an audience to speak to. So if a business is stepping in and sort of saying, I'm going to spend $1,000 on Instagram, haven't done it before, and if it doesn't work, I won't do it again, that'll probably fail every time. It's just got to be an understanding that unlike a magazine, print, radio, social and digital channels are always on and require a commitment over time to grow and for them to be effective and to be able to run tests. So whereas in comparison to radio, you can do a campaign, turn it on, turn it off, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So I think that's the big difference.
Yeah. Now, if you had to, and I know this is going to be another tough question to answer, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Murray. If you had to put percentages of time or money invested in certain parts of a campaign, what percentage would be put into strategy versus the execution side?
I would, I'd probably say 10%, but the exciting thing about digital is that you don't need to overthink things. You can try and test things as you're running and then adapt them as they go. So in a small business sense and even in a big business sense, if you overthink things, then you could overinvest in that time. So I think it's important to know what you're wanting to achieve and what you're going to measure and a hypothesis about how that might be done, and maybe testing a couple of hypotheses, but not be so rigid that you can't change that while it's live if you're not seeing results from what you're doing.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. And I'm mindful we haven't got much time left, but I've got one more question I think the listeners would love to hear from you, because I know you work with a lot of bigger businesses as well. From a smaller business point of view, the branding side of things. I mean, you've spoken a little bit about just getting your brand out there. Should a smaller business be doing branding advertising where they're just getting their message or their logo out in front of people, or should they be really focusing on direct response marketing?
I think as a small business, your brand is one of the biggest assets you've got. And if your brand isn't clear, so when I say that, it's not just the visual identity, it's okay, what does your brand stand for? So I think people probably confuse the visual identity of your brand with the sort of essence of your brand, and that's what does it stand for? How does it feel? What's the attitude? What's the personality of this brand? That's what you got to get out there, because that's what you can own, that's what you can control, and that's what will draw consumers to you. So you see it a lot in the technology space where the brand is unclear. So if the brand is unclear, consumers don't know what you offer, why they would go to you, and even what they would pay. So being really clear on the brand is, I'd say, the number one thing like a business has to do.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff. So it sounds like it's got to be done in conjunction with to really make your marketing work well.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're out there running a marketing campaign and we're unclear about your brand and what you offered to consumers, you're going to have mixed messages. Consumers won't know, what you're offering, why they would go to you, and so it'd be a wasted campaign.
Yeah, which is, I think we see that happen more than effective campaigns. Unfortunately, in business, we see a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with being bold and being confident about a brand and being out there talking about it. But that requires you to sort of sit down and have the discussions, take the time out to get that brand right. And I think that if you don't do that, then you will burn through a lot of cash really, really quickly, and that won't be through potentially the fault of the media plan or the creative or whatever it is. It could be just that you haven't really define what you stand for and what you offer for consumers. And if you as a business owner can't define that, then you can't expect, I guess, a consumer to understand that, who probably looks at your brand for a split second and evaluates it at first impression. So, and that's, I guess, the reality of the marketing world is your brand has to be clear, concise, and meaningful for someone to pick it up in today's fragmented landscape.
Yeah, love it. Thanks so much, Murray. I mean, we're just about out of time, but I can tell you now, I could ask you another 30 questions. We could do this for another couple of hours, but I'm sure neither of us have put that time aside today, so we're going to have to stop here.
That's all right.
But how can people find out more?
Find out more if you just want to. I work for the Zoo Republic, and we have a website, zoorepublic.com.au, and you can see a little bit more about what we do there.
Yeah, great stuff. So zoorepublic.com.au. I've had a look at that website. Amazing stuff on there. You can get an idea of some of the brands that they have worked with over there and that Murray's had a hand in building. Some of those are very familiar brands. So, and I think that every big business starts off as a small business, and the principles are the same, aren't they, Murray?
Absolutely, they are. I mean, we have really strong values in our business, and that's what sort of has driven us to success and through good times and hard times as well. So I think it's another, as a guiding light for business, if you understand the values and you understand your brand, then I think you can weather the storms and actually be really successful as well.
Great stuff. Well, once again, thanks, mate, for sharing all of this wisdom. I know it's not something you learn overnight. You've been at it for a while, and I know the listeners would have got a lot out of that. The final thing we have to do, my friend, is the 60-second scramble. Are you ready for that?
Ready.
All right, let's start the clock ticking. Do you have a hidden talent?
Surfing.
Nice stuff. Did you do much of that in the winter, though?
Not enough. No, the water's pretty chilly.
It's pretty chilly, isn't it? What's your favourite book?
Favorite book would be The Power of One.
Favourite app on your phone?
It's Gumtree.
Number one tip for being more efficient?
Use your diary as your agenda.
Do you have a favourite inspirational quote that you can share with the listeners?
Impossible is nothing.
Nice. What's your favourite drink?
Gin tonic.
The old G&T. What's your biggest addiction? Yeah. Don't say G&Ts.
I'd say it would be exercise.
Oh, okay. Bit of an exercise nut, are you? Yeah.
Well, it just keeps your mind fresh, keeps your mind active, and clears out a bad day when you have them.
Oh, I like it, like it. If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
Oh, geez. A cockatoo, because you can fly above the crowd and make a lot of noise. Sounds like something you'd love to do. Thanks again, Murray. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, mate, and we got a lot out of that. Great. Thanks, Ben.
Edutaining with business brain food.
Well, I'm sure you agree, no matter what size business you're in, there was a lot of gold in there, and I could have kept speaking to Murray for a lot longer because his breadth of experience and depth of experience in the marketing space is invaluable. And I think that anybody in business today needs to understand that it has changed. It is more fragmented. It is more complicated. I'm feeling it myself. As a business owner of 20 years ago, it was a lot simpler. In my business, when we used to run seminars, I would just put an ad in the paper and send out some direct mail letters with some tickets in it, and we'd get 100 people turn up. These days, we're trying to cut through all the digital noise and work out the best way. And Facebook works really well for us, definitely, as does email. But, the things like telemarketing is something we did, 10 years ago. It doesn't work as well anymore. People are screening their calls. So you've really got to think about it as a business owner. How are you moving with the times to make sure that your marketing still has cut through, you're still reaching your potential customers, you're still getting a message out there that's making an impact, and you're understanding what it is your consumers want so your message can meet their needs. I think it's really important. So once again, Murray, thanks for joining us on the Business Brain Food podcast. Very, very insightful chat, and I think I'll get Murray back on at some stage. Maybe what I'll do is I'll get him in the studio because he's Sydney based, and we'll have a coffee live in the studio and have a chat. We'll see. I'll harass him to see if I can get him back on at some stage because I'd love to sit down and talk to pick his brain about a bit more about actual setting up your strategy. I think that would be invaluable. All right, so just a reminder, if you haven't already, we have a Facebook group for Business Brain Food listeners that's a powerful group to be a part of. You go to facebook.com/group/businessbrainfood. For any of the links in the episodes, including this one, you can go to businessbrainfood.com.au. Just click on the episode and you'll see all the links in the show notes, so you can get those there. And if you are on that page, there's a link there to go to that group. But I encourage you to join the closed group online because that's... that group is a way for us to discuss things, talk about interviews that we've had. You can ask anything business related you like. There's some hundreds of business owners in there having a chat, and you're missing out. So jump in there, come and join us in the Business Brain Food group on Facebook, and take your business to the next level. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Really do appreciate you tuning in each and every week. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. Man, I've got some amazing guests coming up. Not that, all my past guests have been amazing too, but just make sure you tune in next week. We've just got some amazing content coming your way. Until next time, have a profitable day.
You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can live all you ever wanted.
The Business Brain Food podcast was brought to you by MaxMyProfit.com.au, helping you build the business you imagined.